Hi guys, welcome and who dat? I'm Joe, and today we are going to be looking at some camp battles to watch, going through the OTAs, into minicamp, eventually into training camp and preseason. We're going to be talking about every position, and I'm going to be highlighting some players that I'm very interested in looking at, but I'm also going to highlight 10 specific camp battles that I am looking forward to getting resolved. And we're going to start at the very top with quarterback, and we're going to work our way through the roster. So at quarterback, we've got Derek Carr, of course. He's our starter. My feelings about Carr, I'll tell you, when he first came into the league, I was immediately comparing him to his brother David. And I noticed right away that Derek was way better than David. Derek was never a great quarterback, but he seemed to have a higher floor than his brother for sure. I mean, when David got bad, and he got pretty bad pretty quick, and he couldn't seem to get out of it. Derek Carr is the kind of quarterback that is stunningly average, but his floor is pretty high. I don't think Derek Carr is the type of guy that's going to throw 3 or 4 interceptions in a game. We saw Andy Dalton do that. I think at Derek Carr's best, he can be as good as Andy Dalton at his best. So that's the issue I have with Derek Carr. He's stunningly average. His ceiling is never going to be high enough for you to think that this guy's going to carry this team anywheres. And if you get in a situation where the game is on the line, you're not sure if you're going to get that from this quarterback, the winning edge and all of that, right? But his floor is pretty high. That's the way I am. There was a game this past year where I think Carr only had 30 yards passing in the first half. And it's real easy to blame the quarterback, even though we know now that Pete Carmichael and this unimaginative offense could probably stymie any quarterback, especially, early on in their career in that system. But, Carr ends up with 65% completion or better than that for the game, probably closer to 70%. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of, I don't want to say bad, there's just a lot of blah and nothing wow. I don't think Carr will ever have as great of a day as Drew Brees on his worst day, But Carr is not that bad. When you look at the season he had last year, as far as the numbers go, it ranks pretty high among all the other players that have ever played quarterback for the Saints. So I'm an old guy. I remember those days after Archie Manning, when we had Kenny Stabler, and that was the big hope in 81 and 82. I remember I was 10, 11 years old. Kenny Stabler was a world champion. He was old. He went out there. I think his final record as a Saint was 18 and 18. 18 and 18. And that was as much hope as you will ever have as a Saints fan at that time, because Archie Manning managed to win 35 games in 11 years. Okay. Archie Manning could barely win 3 games a year. And for Kenny Stabler to come in here and go 18 and 18 was pretty exciting. I'm just saying. So I know a lot of fans out there are used to Drew Brees. They're used to this amazing Hall of Fame quarterback. If any team in the league ever had a guy like that for 15 years, yeah, your franchise is riding high and looking good. No one's going to match Drew Brees. It's a joke. You'd have to take the next 8 quarterbacks after Drew Brees in Saints history and add all of their touchdowns up together to even come close to what Drew Brees did on his own. That's how impressive Drew Brees was. So now, all of that in perspective, Derek Carr is an average quarterback. His ceiling's never going to be high enough to satisfy me, but his floor is high enough that I'm not concerned. If the rest of the team can play well, we can do something. Man, we'll see. we can't make the playoffs. Haven't done it yet with them. But we'll see. The interesting part at quarterback, because Derek Carr's our starter, and that's all there is to it. As long as Dennis Allen is our coach, Derek Carr is our starter. The interesting part is the battle for QB2 between Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. Jake Haener is a fine quarterback, and I think his ability to be accurate is going to be what propels him to the number 2 spot. That's my opinion. I think that a quarterback as a rookie is going to struggle no matter how good the quarterback is. I remember Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions his first year, and I had more confidence in Peyton Manning being a great pro than I have had confidence in any college quarterback coming into the pros. It was obvious that Peyton Manning was going to be a great quarterback. And there's not very many quarterbacks in the league that have thrown 28 interceptions in a single season either, so that's the way I look at it. It's the way I've always looked at it. I don't expect any quarterback to excel his first year. So I expect Spencer Rattler to be our number 3, to go through the bumps and bruises and to learn, to look not very good in preseason, much like Haener last year during his rookie season. Now, Haener has the benefit of a second-year pro, so he knows where to go in the facility, right? He knows where to park. He knows the city a little bit better. Things are going to be easier for Haener. Everyone's learning a new system this year, and I think Haener's got the obvious advantage right now. But the issue with Haener is his physical limitations. As accurate as he is and as smart as he is in distributing the football, he's always going to be slightly hindered by his physicality. He's a good athlete. He's just very short. He's very light. And that's where Spencer Rattler has the advantage. So this year, Haener's number 2. I think it's obvious. And you give Rattler a couple of years under his belt to learn everything. I believe next year Rattler comes out looking a lot better, and at some point, possibly 2 years from now, is when you're really going to see Rattler challenging Haener. And I think that Rattler, although physically he's not great compared to other quarterbacks in the league, he is better than Haener. And so eventually I think that's going to overtake whatever Haener's advantage might be as far as up here and how to process, what Haener does very well. Now, if Haener is performing and this is making him great, and this short little body is not limiting him and he can go out there and do it, then he'll be our number 2. I like Haener. I love his accuracy. He was excelling last year in OTAs, in the rookie minicamp, the OTAs, and in the minicamp and the training camp. Everybody raved about Haener, but when it came to the preseason, Haener didn't put it all together, and that's what we wanted to see. In the first game, he managed to bring the team back, and we beat the Chiefs. But then in the last 2 preseason games, when Haener got the most play, he didn't look that good. And it's kind of hard in the 3rd preseason game when everyone on the field is either a backup or is not going to make the team, and you're going out there trying to win a game. I know it can be tough. We're probably going to see the same struggles with Rattler in preseason this year, and hopefully Haener can show us a lot more in preseason, because I think that's the only thing now. You've got an off season with Haener where he excelled, except for under the lights in the preseason games. And now this year, he starts off OTAs looking great again. And I think that's the next step for Haener. I don't think his ability to perform great in preseason is going to determine whether he's our number 2 or not. I think he's going to be our number 2 because he's just going to have this advantage over Rattler at first. I think if Haener struggles in preseason this year, I think Rattler will too. And maybe Rattler can find something. It'll be interesting. But that is the first battle I'm focused on. We're all going to be watching that, especially in the preseason. It's going to be interesting. If Rattler can outperform Hayner under the lights, that might be his best chance to be our number 2 QB. All right, next we're going to talk about the halfbacks, and there's really nothing to say as far as a competition here. It'll be number 2 between Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams, and I think Kendre Miller is going to get the slight edge when it's all said and done because of his youth, and Williams didn't show much last year. If Williams fits into this scheme well, then that'll be great, but Kendre Miller is going to be a focal point as long as he's healthy on this team. He has too much ability. And right now, Kendre Miller's getting all of the reps in OTAs because Williams isn't there and Kamara isn't there. So Kendre's getting a lot of work. But another guy that I want to focus on is Jordan Mims, who's getting a lot of work too. He was on our practice squad last year along with James Robinson. And Mims is the guy that's shining at OTAs right now. So I believe there is a number 4 running back spot available if we decide to carry 4 running backs. I think when it's said and done, we're only going to carry 3. So you'll have Alvin Kamara and you'll have Kendre Miller. And then, you figure Williams will be your number 3. Jamal will be either number 2 or number 3. But I think Kendre is going to beat out Jamal when it's all said and done. And Jamal Williams may have to fight for that number 3 spot if we only keep 3. If Jordan Mims keeps performing like he's performing. Now, Mims is a younger player, and Williams is just, this is voluntary OTAs right now, but he's not there. It's a new system, so I think everybody should be there. Alvin Kamara should be there. And if you decide to take your vacations when OTAs are going on, yeah, that's great. Wow, you want to spend a month in another country or whatever, that's great. I just hope when you show up, you know this system. It's a brand new system. It'd be nice to see how things are going. It'd be nice if you would participate. It's just the way I feel. And be the exceptional athlete we all know you are or were, and show up and excel and be McCaffrey 2.0 in this system, and all will be forgiven and forgotten. But for right now, Jordan Mims is showing that he wants a spot on this roster. At fullback, I thought one of my highlighted camp battles would be Adam Prentice versus Xander Horvath. But then OTA start, and lo and behold, it is the mighty Taysom Hill who is playing fullback. And we've got Adam Prentice and Xander Horvath factoring in there as well. But, if Taysom Hill's going to be taking reps at fullback, you might as well just chalk a block. Fullback number 1 is Taysom Hill. Our fullback's going to need an inline block and all that stuff. And, as a tight end / fullback in this system, you're going to have to be able to block. And I don't think Taysom Hill's got it in him to be blocking 60 plays out of a game. It can work. You put Taysom Hill in the backfield as an up back blocker, and I think it's a tell that we're not going to have him block. We're going to have him run or split out or run a route or something like that. If the team is down and it's late in the first half or something, and we're going to be passing every play, then I see no issues in having this kind of a setup with Hill playing the position of fullback, which is important in this system, more important than a lot of other teams use the fullback. We're going to have a fullback out there even when we're just trying to pass the ball. That's the way I look at it. And so it's not so much a tell when we're definitely passing and we still have a fullback out there in Taysom Hill. Taysom's going to have to learn how to block, is what I'm saying, if we're going to completely fool a team all the time. Taysom can't just go out there and run from the quarterback position. He's going to have to throw the ball once or twice. And the same thing at fullback. He's going to have to be able to block. So even though my honorable mention camp battle is Prentice versus Horvath, I think the fact that Taysom's playing fullback at OTAs right now is pretty exciting. Let's look at the wide receivers. And we do have a big battle here to focus on. Not so much for the number one position, though. Chris Olave is a stud. The way he runs routes, and even though he's only going into his third year, I think Chris Olave could teach route running to a lot of veterans that's been in the league 3 times as long as him. Because Chris Olave is just a master at it. And it's his physicality and his ability to be able to cut and move. The way he plucks the ball out of the air, he doesn't show his hands. The man is a great receiver. The problem is once he catches the ball, it seems like that's it. And in this system, I think we're going to be focusing on run after catch with these receivers. We're going to try to put our receivers in a position to gain yards after the catch. And that's something that San Fran leaned on heavily. And I'm pretty sure Kubiak's going to want to do the same. So do you target and draw up a bunch of plays to target Chris Olave specifically in this offense, knowing that he doesn't really exhibit the run after catch you're wanting? It's one of those things, and I want Olave to be able to get better at it. He's trying to get bigger. He's trying to get tougher. He's trying to be better at a point of attack, contact, up and getting the ball and all that, and contested catch. I mean, Olave is trying to get better at that, and I'm hoping the next step for him is doing something with the ball once you get it, because he gets open every play, and he can catch the ball on every play. But if you're running a 5-yard out, and it's 1st and 10, and you catch the ball and that's it, and it's 2nd and 5, you might draw it up to somebody who can catch that out on 1st and 10 and turn a 5-yard into a 10-yard play or a first down. I'm just saying. That's the next step for Olave. But other than that, the man is just wow. When you watch him run routes, it's like, man, how does he do it? How is he so smooth? How is he getting open? How is he catching all of these balls? Great receiver. No question, he's our number one. And then we're going to have Rashid Shaheed lined up everywhere. We're going to use him in a lot of different spots. And I think Cedric Wilson is probably going to make this team as the much-needed veteran presence. I think Cedric Wilson can come in and play any receiver spot if you have an opening, if Olave has to miss a game, or I think Wilson's going to excel in the slot. So that's something to look for. I think those three are definitely there. And the big battle is going to be between A.T. Perry and Bub Means. I think that X receiver is still the guy that we need, the Michael Thomas type. And Cedric Wilson can excel as a big run blocking slot and slant slot and stuff like that. We're hoping Cedric Wilson can do that effectively. But yeah, who's going to be that big X receiver opposite Chris Olave when we need it? We want A.T. Perry to get a bunch of play, so he needs to show that he can be a better run blocker. He needs to be better in his route running. And he's already shown that he can make contested catches and he can make big plays. And he's got the speed to be a threat deep. He needs to show, although he has the frame to do it, he needs to show that he can be better in the middle of the field, more consistent with contested catches, but he can make big plays. We've seen it. So A.T. Perry is a guy that we're going to see a lot of play from. And Bub Means, a 5th-round draft pick this year, has all of the tools to be a next receiver and to be able to line up everywhere and be physical and fast. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who excels. Will it be A.T. Perry in the 2nd year, or will Bub Means show enough to be able to take a lot of those snaps from Perry? I want to see Perry on the field a lot, and I want him to excel. And I also want to see Bub Means and see what he can do. And I think it's interesting. I think Cedric Wilson's on this team along with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. I think you kind of need Cedric Wilson as that veteran presence, that plug-and-play guy when needed, a steady veteran who makes you feel okay about whatever lineup you're rolling out there. And then you've got these other positions available. I mean, you've got St. Brown and Morgan and Tipton and Jackson and Sheets. These guys are all going to be battling to make this roster. But A.T. Perry and Bub Means are going to be battling to get valuable playing time on the active roster, game in and game out. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing who gets the better of who in camp and in preseason. If Means can make this team, because we feel like Perry's going to make it. It's not necessarily a heads-up battle. Means is fighting for a roster spot. Sure, he could be going versus all these other players I mentioned, but I think these two are battling for that X receiver spot. It's interesting for me. I can't wait to see who steps it up. Now let's talk about tight end. We're going to have Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, and Taysom Hill will still play a lot of tight end. It's the third spot, basically tight end 3, tight end 4. If you count Hill as a tight end 4. Who's that going to be? Dallin Holker is the undrafted guy, big money undrafted priority guy. Everybody wants to see him excel. I truly believe that Holker on the practice squad will not stay there. He will get claimed. I know Ross says you don't worry about that kind of stuff. I think Ross makes some valid points, and I think he's wrong about this. I think that Dallin Holker never stays on our practice squad if we try to put him there, if he clears waivers to begin with. So if you waive Dallin Holker, you might as well just kiss him goodbye. So the only way we're going to do that is if somebody else can step it up. And Michael Jacobson is the guy that's stepping it up right now. He's the guy that is making the plays. He looks better than Holker right now. Jacobson has been on our practice squad, I think, all of last year, but I think he made it on our practice squad the year before. And we haven't seen Jacobson a lot. But he's standing out in the OTAs right now as a really good tight end. And so you waive Dallin Holker, you better make sure that the guy you're keeping on the roster is a talented guy with a lot of upside. And that's what Jacobson is showing right now. So that's a very interesting battle to me. I think Juwan Johnson's a lock. Foster Moreau is a lock. Taysom Hill is obviously a lock. But Taysom is an X factor that's going to be playing everywhere, running quarterback and fullback, wide receiver and tight end. And if we keep a third tight end besides Taysom Hill, it's either going to be Dallin Holker or, at this point, looks like Michael Jacobson, one of these guys. So we'll see who can excel at special teams. But right now, Jacobson's looking better than Holker, and we have to point that out. We're going to wrap up the offense now by looking at the offensive line. And there are battles everywhere, and we are trying different players at different positions. There's a lot of players who aren't participating in the OTAs, so we're not quite sure how Oli Udo's going to fit in because he hasn't been participating. Of course, Ryan Ramczyk hasn't been available. And Lucas Patrick. I'm not sure if Lucas Patrick's participating right now or not. But at left guard, we've been seeing Nick Saldiveri start. And then we've been rotating in Shane Lemieux and the undrafted guy, Kyle Hergel. And, of course, Ruiz is at right guard. But I think that once Lucas Patrick's involved, he's going to get put at left guard for a little while, too. So the battle I'm focused on is Lucas Patrick versus Nick Saldiveri for the starting left guard spot. Kyle Hergel could surprise. And right now, Hergel's getting that second team reps behind Saldiveri. But like I said, Lucas Patrick, he's either not participating in OTAs or he is participating and they're just lining him up at right guard right now behind Cesar Ruiz. So maybe the second team right now is Kyle Hergel at left guard and Patrick at right guard. But I think we're trying different things right now, and we probably will be until training camp starts. We're going to find out who the best 5 on the offensive line is, and we're gonna make this work. And so I don't look too much into that. I think when it's all said and done, Lucas Patrick and Nick Saliveri are going to be competing for that starting left guard spot when it's all said and done. And in that tackle, well, these two aren't necessarily going head to head against each other, but it is the big battle to look for with Tali Esse Fuanga versus Trevor Penning. And really, it's a question of who's going to be left tackle, who's going to be right tackle. Right now, we're playing right tackle Fuanga at left tackle, and we're playing left tackle Trevor Penning at right tackle. And I think this might work. I mean, Penning is an impressive, massive specimen of a dude. And I mean, if this system fits what he does, and it just works better for him, then I think it's good to have him on the right side. Derek Carr, for the majority of his dropbacks, will be seeing who's coming from the right side. And if Trevor Penning whiffs, Carr can get the hell out, right? We don't need Penning back here for the majority of the time where Carr's trying to be comfortable knowing that Penning might get beat on any snap. I think Fuanga showing a lot. I think that Fuanga is going to end up being a solid tackle no matter what side he's on. And this experiment right now might end up working. I think Fuanga's got the ability to do it at left tackle, probably better than Penning. I'm certain better than Penning. Doesn't take a lot to do better than what Penning did at left tackle. I think that Penning could get better at left tackle if we gave him a chance to. You just don't want to get your quarterback killed. There's a fresh start for Penning, a fresh coaching staff, and yeah, we're going to see if this works. So if Penning has a hard time adjusting to the right side, then you might end up keeping Fuanga on the left side anyway, having Penning as the backup. And then you've got a whole new battle at right tackle to look at. But for right now, it's very interesting. It could work. Fuanga on the left side, Penning on the right. Let Derek Carr see the guy beating Penning so he can do something. That's all I got. But it kind of makes sense to me. I didn't want to do it. I didn't expect to do it. I didn't want to do it. Even before the draft, I didn't consider Fuanga a guy you'd put on the left side. He could definitely play guard, but he was such a good right tackle, and you need a right tackle. You just go with what works, but this could be a brilliant move by the Saints. All right, let's look at some defensive players, and we're going to start at the defensive line. So Chase Young is a guy that we're not seeing now participate, but every Saints fan wanted a pass edge rusher. And we decided to make it the high money free agent priority this year by signing Chase Young. Chase Young plays at around 260, 265. It's just at that spot where he's okay on the line against the run. He can play well against the run. He can rush the passer as good as anyone in the league. And if he's, got his head in it and he's healthy, then we've probably got us a steal. If Chase Young puts it all together, he's going to be one of the best defensive ends in the league. Now, whose place does he take? He takes Cam Jordan's place right now, in my opinion. Cam Jordan is the guy coming off of a very down year, injury-plagued year. And from what I saw from Cam Jordan last year, I think it's going downhill and he needs to be replaced. Now, Cam bounces back from this injury this year, and he shows that he's still got enough in the tank, and he puts up another 8-sack season. then it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to sit Cam Jordan and have Chase Young chasing after the quarterback all the time. If Cam has anything left in the tank, from what I saw last year, I don't think he really does anymore. And it could be because of the injuries. So if that's the case, maybe you see Cam Jordan on early downs and then they bring in Chase Young. Or maybe they just plug in Chase Young whenever Granderson needs a break or when Jordan needs a break. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this defensive line at the end position. You've got Isaiah Foskey, who's a second-year player, and we need to put him out there on third down to chase after quarterback. If we want him to just not think and just play and go for it, like Allen keeps saying, well, Foskey's got to be out there on third down to do that. I mean, Carl Granderson was a great pass rusher for us. He got more sacks than any other end on our team last year. So it's kind of weird wanting to take Granderson out and put Foskey in on third down. It's kind of hard to pull Granderson and Jordan out at all on third down if they're both going to be producing this year. So I think we got a plethora of players here. Chase Young has to get on that field. So I think that Cam Jordan's going to be phased out eventually. I think that we're going to have Jordan on early downs, Chase Young in on passing downs, and then when Granderson needs a break, Chase will line up there. We'll pull out Jordan for a couple of series and let Chase line up. But yeah, I think it's an interesting problem to have, actually. Chase Young as a free agent signing has improved our defensive line. It really has. Peyton Turner's still a guy that's going to get a lot of play. He can bounce inside if needed, and so can Tano Passanio. I don't think we get rid of Passanio or Foskey, though. In the starting lineup, when it's all said and done, I think we're going to let Turner go. I would trade him to Denver for a 6th-round pick and be done with him. That's just me. But the highlighted battle I want to focus on is that defensive tackle. Colin Saunders is our starting nose. And then we just drafted Christian Boyd, and I think he's a good run stopper, and he'll be behind Saunders. I think Saunders is your starter no matter what, and Boyd comes in and relieves Saunders from time to time on early downs. We have lots of ends that can kick inside and rush from the inside on third downs. But it's that 3-tech position I'm looking at with Nathan Shepard and Brian Bresee. Now, we all know Brian Bresee is a great player, and he's going to get a lot of playing time. But last year, the fact of the matter is, Nathan Shepard started, he played early, and we did put Bresee in quite a bit, but nobody excelled against the run. Shepard had a decent season rushing the passer and playing in the middle of the field. And despite what Shepard did, the Saints have extended Shepard's contract. He was one of the guys that we restructured to free up some money, but we locked him in for a couple more years. So Shepard's a guy that we like. We like bouncing Shepard around in the middle of the defensive line on both sides when it comes to rushing the passer. We'll put Shepard at the nose. So we like Shepard, which is weird because Bresee's the guy that we want to see on the field all the time. Bresee's got to be better against the run. Both of these players have to be better against the run. And when it's all said and done, it's probably going to be not so much a battle between these two, but more of just how they complement each other at that 3-tech. Because we all want to see Bresee out there. But Shepard is a guy that's locked in for a couple more years, and he was okay with his production last year. Like I said, nobody was good enough against the run. That's my issue. I hope one of these guys show that they can improve against the run. I want Bresee to be an every down defensive tackle, stopping the run, rushing the passer. That's what I want to see. And yeah, Shepard plays just well enough to demand playing time. So let's see how this battle finishes out. Let's look at the linebackers now, and we already know if we're going to go with 3 linebackers, I think there's no question. It's Pete Werner at the will, Demario Davis in the middle, and then Willie Gay at the Sam. Willie Gay and Pete Werner are going to compete against each other to a degree for the will. It's a big battle. I think what's going to happen is we're going to play both of them. We're going to play both of them at the will, and it all depends on what we need, what is needed for every game. Like I said, if it's 3 linebackers on the same play, you just keep Werner at the will. You let Gay play the Sam. I think that works out fine. But we play some sort of sub package 70% of the time. It's either nickel, dime, or something like that. And we only have 2 linebackers out there. So that's going to be Demario Davis in the middle, and you think Pete Werner at the will, but sometimes we'll put Gay at the will. When we're playing quarterbacks that can run, we're going to put Gay at the will a lot more than we would normally. Stuff like that. If Werner's having a hard time, we'll plug Gay in there. And eventually maybe Gay versus Werner becomes a thing. But I think ultimately one of these players is going to get re-signed next year. And it is a battle. It's not the battle I'm highlighting, though. Because like I said, I think this year Werner's going to get his play at will. And Gay's going to get his time at will. It's going to be one of them things. If we're playing a non-mobile quarterback, we'll have Werner out there. And Gay will be highlighted in other positions. And then if we're playing someone like Lamar Jackson, we're definitely going to have Gay out there. And I think Werner's good in coverage. I think Werner struggles at rushing the passer. And when it's all said and done, when the season's over, Werner's going to have a certain percentage at will. Gay's going to have a certain percentage at will. And we're going to see how it turns out. And Gay may end up the better player, and he may be the guy we keep in the end. Davis is just telling Father Time to take a nap. So, but the battle I want to focus on, because I think it's Werner, Davis, and Gay, and then your number 4 is going to be Jalen Ford, our draft pick. And I think DeMarco Jackson will be number 5. And then that number 6 battle that I'm looking at. Neppy Sewell's got the job. He's just not going to be ready to play when the season starts. And so, yeah, I'm focusing on this battle. Khaleke Hudson versus Monty Rice. Both of these guys are veterans. Both of these guys are great special teamers. Both of these guys would be a welcome addition in the linebacking core because they both have starts under their belt. They're versatile. And yeah, I'm seriously just talking about linebacker number 6. I think both of these players won't be on the active roster once Neppy Sewell comes back. I think Sewell's a guy that's showing so much you want to keep him. Sewell will probably start the season on IR though. And so I'm watching what these 2 veterans can do. I mean, who stands out? Because both of them should stand out in preseason. They're going to be in there when the second team and third team players are in there, and they're both veterans and they're both good players. And I want to see who can line up at linebacker between Hudson and Rice and be worth their weight in salt. But I have to admit, when Sewell comes back and he's healthy, both of these guys will probably end up on the practice squad, and Sewell will be on the active roster. All right, we're going to go into the secondary. This is where I'm going to wrap it up. I have no battles to highlight at safety, although that's where the chock-a-block battles are happening. Tyrann Mathieu is your guy. He's definitely starting at safety, and he can do it all. But he's a year older, and so who's going to be number 2 safety, and who's going to be that number 3 safety, dime safety? So it's either going to be Jonathan Abram or Jordan Howden. And we know Howden's going to get playing time. The young guy showed a lot last year. He got benched a few times too, but I think Howden's good. He's better deep than around the line of scrimmage, and Jonathan Abram's better around the line of scrimmage. You have both of them out there in the dime package. It's kind of like you're telling them what you're doing. Abram's got to get better deep. Howden's got to get better at the line. And so you won't have a tell. But if they're both doing all of it, then the offense won't know either way. It's just how they excel. So Abram versus Howden is a honorable mention battle here. And I'm really focused on Lawrence Johnson at safety, trying to get a spot ahead of J.T. Gray or Ugo Amadi or Will Harris. Millard Bradford, and I think he's out of Southeast Missouri State. He's got a lot of versatility, so that's why I focus on Bradford as a guy to look at. I mean, we'll see what he can do. Ugo Amadi is a good nickel, and he can play safety. And Will Harris is a guy that can line up at any cornerback spot and safety. So that's a huge battle that I'm honorable mentioning as well, Amadi versus Harris. And I think when it's said and done, we keep both of them. And the big battle is going to be either J.T. Gray remaining on this team as the last safety, or because of his special teams, and he has been a first-team special teamer for us, league-wide. But Millard Bradford's got something to show. And maybe he sneaks onto this roster ahead of Gray when it's all said and done. But, of course, cornerback's what we're focusing on, and the big battle is going to be the nickelback spot. Amadi can do it. Will Harris can do it. But the battle is Alontae Taylor versus Kool-Aid McKinstry. Who's going to be our number 3 cornerback? Looks like we're going to keep Marshawn Lattimore. That's what everybody says. I heard Dennis Allen. He might have said he expects Lattimore to be here. That doesn't mean he's going to be here. What else is he supposed to say? That's what he said, and everybody said, oh, that's it. We're not trading Lattimore. No. He said everything's fine. We talked. Everything's fine. Everything's fine to me means everything's fine. The team that agreed to trade for him after June 1st is a team that Lattimore's not hesitant to go to. And maybe that's what everything. We had a talk and everything went well. Yeah, Lattimore agreed to get traded to Tennessee or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't believe a word Dennis Allen says. But if Lattimore is on our team, he's going to be our starting cornerback, and Paulson Adebo is a man that should not be messed with. Adebo's going to get the big contract next year. Are we going to pay him $20 million a year? $25 million a year? Somebody will. Adebo is going to make $20 million next year. Adebo's a great player. The only problem I ever had with Adebo was the penalties. And last year he cut that down to almost nothing. He might have had a couple at the beginning of the season, but down the stretch toward the end of the season, Adebo was not getting in trouble with penalties at all, and that impressed me. Not to mention that he had, 18 pass breakups? Just phenomenal player. Paulson Adebo, Marshawn Lattimore, that's your starters. No doubt about it. Who's going to be the nickel? Alontae Taylor's got a year under his belt now. And if he's bought in, I think he could be a pretty good nickel. In the OTAs right now, because Lattimore's not there, Taylor's been playing on the outside. And guess what? Taylor's looking great in OTAs on the outside. And right now at OTAs, Kool-Aid McKinstry can't participate because he's recovering from surgery. So this battle for the nickelback, starting nickel, that third cornerback on the field all the time, basically a starter in this system. That's the battle that we're going to have to wait until later on, further in mini camp or maybe even training camp before McKinstry gets involved. But this is the huge battle from the cornerback position that I am interested in looking at. Well, I've highlighted a bunch of them, but there's still 2 more that I got to highlight. It's both special team spots for the kickers and the punters. You've got Blake Groupie that's going to go up against Charlie Smith. And Charlie Smith is part of the international program, so if Charlie Smith makes the roster, he won't count against the 53-man roster, and that gives us an extra roster spot, an extra player on our team if we keep Charlie Smith. So I'm excited to see how Smith performs. I like Groupie. Groupie, to me, is okay. Yeah, he missed a kick against Green Bay that could have won the game. But what really bothered me about Groupie was missing those short kicks. That was the issue. If he would have made those short kicks, he missed like 2 or 3 of them. And if he'd have made those, we wouldn't have had an issue with Groupie at all, I don't think. You expect a rookie not to be great, and if you miss a kick, oh well. It's a 40-something kick, 50-something yard kick. Oh well. It's missing those 30-yarders that drove me crazy. That bothered me the most. But I still think Groupie's okay. Man, he looks like he's in middle school. So we'll see what Charlie Smith can do. I'm excited. If Charlie Smith can have a camp comparable to Groupie, I think it's obvious you keep Smith so you can have the extra roster spot. And I think that's something that most teams should look into. Keeping an international player at kicker and punter so that you can have the extra roster spot. At punter, we have some international flavor, but nobody's an international player. Oh, either one of them, whichever one we keep, is going to count against the 53-man roster. But we have Lou Hedley, the Aussie, versus Matthew Hayball, the Aussie. Hayball, the undrafted guy out of Vanderbilt, coming in to participate and to compete against Lou Hedley, who struggled last year when it came to average yard per punt, but excelled when it came to limiting teams to punt return yardage. And Hedley doesn't get enough credit for the amount of kicks that were down inside of the 20, which is basically what he was asked to do. Our offense always bogged down at the 50 or the 40, and then Hedley would go out there and pin the team inside the 20. So apparently at OTAs, Hedley looks like a better player this year already. His hang time's a little better, and those kicks are a few yards longer. So we'll see if Hedley can fight off Hayball. And that's it. That's all of the camp battles that I wanted to focus on, as well as players to watch. Subscribe to my channel, Rosenfield 10. I am a fan. I'm not a reporter. I'm going to watch all the other channels like you do to get my news, and then I'm going to make videos telling you how I feel about it, and I'll try to include some things that the other channels miss. I'll focus in on some battles they haven't talked about, and, give you some stuff to look at. I'm a Saints fan. If you're the Who Dat family, Who Dat Nation family, come and join me. Like I always say, come have some coffee and hang out. Leave your comments down low, please, so I can see what you guys are thinking. And make sure to subscribe. I need all the help I can get. Like the video, share the video, and until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who Dat?